Is Scott going to be joining us?
Yeah, he'll be a little late. He'll be a little late.
Okay. All right. So I'll start with the first slide. So tonight, what we're going to do is simply some question and answer sessions. Just so you would be you're aware of how that's going to work tonight. So the participants, this is going to be township residents and taxpayers. Please sign in with your full name. I'll show you how to do that if you want to go ahead and talk, so we can have that. If there's a glitch and you don't know, you can't get that fixed, then what we'll do is
one
go ahead
sec.
and have you, everybody, when it's time for your question, go ahead and state your whole name, and then as a resident, your address. So you can update your name by hitting the participants. And this is a picture. Is there, all the folks are on mic now? You can see my cursor.
I cannot see your screen, Trace.
You can't see it?
Michelle, do you see it? Does anybody else see it?
I don't see it.
I don't see it.
How about now?
Yes.
You can see it all?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's start over. So for tonight, we had this meeting scheduled for a question and answer session. And for the participants, we're asking that the resident taxpayers, please. And when you do, as you logged in, you had an opportunity to type in your name. This is a way to update your name if you want to speak, so we can get the full name. If you can't do that, then once we unmic you, if you just go ahead and state your name and then your address. And this kind of gives you the Zoom menu bar. And anybody stop me if I'm going too quick on this stuff. This is what you should see, whether you have an iPhone or if you have an iPad or you're on your computer, something around this. This is what you push to connect audio-wise. And if you hit and I'll show you in the next slide how this works, you'll hit the participant button. So hold that thought. As we go through the slide deck that Ben will actually do, please hold on to your question to the last. And then when it's time to ask those questions, what we'll try to do is see how well this works. Raise your hand, and there's a function of how that works in the participant piece right here, and I'll show you again a better slide next. We will be recording these sessions. We had a little glitch last time from our township meeting, and we're going to see how well we can do this time around. There's a lot of data that goes on this, but we are recording. Backup plan, if you would, and we're continuing to go on this right now. On our
Somebody having a conversation
Background noise.
that we have
Background
on
noise.
our website.
Yeah.
Process what we're looking for, why we pursued this path of investigating why we should take a look at a possible sell. Has Michelle's email address on it as well, and you can mail her those particular questions if this doesn't work out for you, and then we'll get them to the appropriate party to answer those. So a little bit more detail. Any questions on that slide? A little bit more detail. So if you do hit that participate button, this is just an example. I kind of logged in with a different unit. You can see here where the video's on, the mic slash. You see that on your machine as well. And then this will come up once you hit that. If you select your name, if you click your name, it says me, and you hit raise hand, this is what happens. A hand comes up. And then accordingly, when you're done asking your questions, you can just lower your hand, and we know that we've answered your question. Another way you can go in, the three dots are to the right. So just to highlight, if you did wanted to change your name or update your name, same way, hit rename is all you do is punch in your name again and hit done. So for tonight, back on that. Any questions on that? Questions on that one? Okay, for tonight, we have the folks here from Upper Pottsgrove, myself, Renee, Dave Walt, Kathy, and Martin. Michelle Reddick, our township manager. Chuck will be joining us a little bit later. He's our solicitor. Chris Pelka, who's an engineer. Mark Feller is our attorney special counsel. Liz will be joining us a little later, is also from Dilworth special counsel. And Ben Kamenstein from PFM, who's been doing a lot of the work since we started this project, and so is with Scott. And John Beeler, who is our township sewer committee chair, has been involved with this as we first met with some of the utilities almost a year ago, past a year ago. For Pennsylvania American Water, who's the highest bidder on the phone tonight, we have Bernie, the Senior Director for Business Development, Keith Gavage, and John Ward is their attorney. Liz Strzeski, is that how you pronounce it?
Scary.
Bernie Piscari,
Scared.
and Jim Gable, Mike Guntram, and Maggie Sheely. So once Pennsylvania American Water starts to answer a question, Bernie can certainly identify who we'd like to answer those questions. So that's how we have on the line. Generally, what we do on this, if you've not spoken in a while, if you just kind of say your name for the folks that are unmiked, so the residents know who's talking. So I'm going to stop this one, and then I'm going to ask that Ben go ahead and put the slide deck up for tonight. And then after we get through the first slide, Michelle will be watching closely. So if you want to open up your mic, just put up your hand, and we'll see. I think right now we have 47 participants is what I'm showing.
Yep, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so I am taking that down. So Ben, if you want to go ahead and share yours.
Hey, Trace, it's saying that the host disabled participant screen sharing. I think you have to like enable me to be able to do it. Did you hear that, Trace?
Yeah, I did. I'm looking.
Grace, maybe you could put up Ben's slide deck. He
That
can,
was my next option. Yeah.
okay.
Hey, Ben, when did you send the last updated version
Uh,
of the presentation?
I think it was this morning at 10:51 or something like that.
Let's see if this is.
I can send it right now, Trace, if you want.
Let me see if this is it first. Yeah, I think this is it. I think I got it. Can I see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So go ahead. I'll go ahead and Ben, when you want me to move the slides, let me know.
Do you have it on slideshow mode?
No, it fills up my other screen. We're gonna have to go this way.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. So I'm Ben Kappenstein, as Trace said, with PFM Financial Advisors. I'm going to tick through this here. We're going to kind of do it. A couple people are going to talk. I think I'm going to kick it to Trace for a couple things, and then Bernie from PA American is going to talk as well. But if we want to go to the first slide. So just giving a little background here, number one, in early 2019, the township engaged PFM to explore selling the sewer system. A lot of things have transpired since then. There's been a lot of due diligence that's happened. We're going to talk about that a little bit more on the next page. But first, I think we wanted to get into some of the reasons that the township was looking to sell the system. And Trace, I think I'm going to hand it back to you for that.
Okay, so this is kind of parallels a letter that's going out, and that went out. It's already posted, and it went out today. So the residents, and we sent it all the residents we have addresses for within the township. So the reason for exploring this, we have a current debt right now. This is December 31st, 2019. And this is interest and debt outstanding at that time. So if we would put any type of payoff in place, it would be around $7,300,000 or something around that. The other piece is our unfunded pension liability. This number is probably lower than what it is now, given the market conditions over the last month and a half. That this is what we pay our retirees and what we're supposed to have in there, and we're short at this particular time. We did an actual building study a while back last year, and it came in between around 3.5 million to almost 4.8 million. This is kind of like we're thinking of 3.5 to 4.5 on our two buildings, and our two main buildings, and one of the police station, Public Works, and then the fire department and our administrative building. And that was a cost to repair them, and then taking a look at what we would do if we wanted to go someplace else with that. This is the exposure to capital spending. So our 537 plan is we have several different projects we have scheduled to go forward. Some of those will be the ones that we have scheduled will be listed in the letters that goes forward. Those can be very expensive as we put those things in, depending on what we have. It looks like if we didn't do anything, what we'd have to borrow against that to put it in the ground, depending on what our balances was in the sewer fund. And then eliminating system risk. So if something fails, we're responsible for that. In this way, it spreads out the risk, and that goes to the buying utility. So that was in detail. You'll see posted. I encourage you to go online and read the whole letter. You should have that in hand within 1 to 2 days as well, as a hard copy mail-wise. That's what our intent. And at the bottom, as you start seeing, Ben, if you want to go ahead and take over, what the bid came in, and you could see that we're doing pretty well in coverage of what our intent was. So Ben.
Yeah, so I mean, just on point 3 there, it's been about a year-long process to get to this point, but on February 5th, we issued a request for bids to both pre-qualified bidding teams. It was PA American and Aqua. Those were the two teams that were pre-qualified, and PA American ultimately submitted the highest bid for $13,750,000, which met the township's expectations for what they were looking for. So if we go to the next page, we'll talk a little bit more about some of the process, the things that have happened to get us to this point.
Just real quick,
yes.
Do we have any questions on that first slide?
I don't see any hands up, Trace. I'm checking. I've been checking every couple of minutes.
And folks, we'll cover it again too at the end. So if you don't want to do it at this point, we'll ask the question. Just open it up at the end. Nothing up, Michelle?
No, I didn't see any hands up, Trace.
Okay, Ben, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, just ticking through kind of the timeline, what's happened. So in May of 2019, we presented the township with a limited scope valuation, basically telling them what we thought their system could be worth in the market. And then the township decided to move forward after that step. So in June, we released a request for qualifications. That's kind of the first step in the process for us. It's where we reach out and we say, who's interested in the system? If you're interested, please submit your qualification and tell us that you're financially qualified, technically qualified, and you've done this before. We received 2 responses back, one from PA American and one from Aqua. Both of those bidding teams were determined to be pre-qualified, so they both entered the process, as we call it. In July and up really until February of 2020, so July 19 through Feb 20, we negotiated documents. We held meetings at the township building with both bidding teams. Both teams were able to take tours of the township and look at the assets that were above ground. So really a lot's happened. There was an asset purchase agreement developed in that time that was negotiated back and forth between the bidding teams and the township and its legal advisors. It all culminated again on February 5th. We released a request for bids. We got responses back March 16th. It just so happened that the bids were within 10% of each other, which triggered what we call a best and final offer period. So basically, we went back to both bidding teams and we said, look, the bids were close. You can both submit a higher bid if you wish. The results of that, again, was the American submitting the highest bid with that $13,750,000. After that, we had an executive session with PA American on March 25th. That was a virtual executive session. On here, it has April 2nd was the first public presentation, but actually tonight is the first public presentation. In addition to tonight, the township has also scheduled 3 more public presentations on the 8th, which is Wednesday, the 14th, and the 16th of April. And it all culminates in the consideration of an ordinance to approve the final sale on April 20th. That's the current plan as it's laid out. Financial close, typically for a transaction like this, it has to go through the Pennsylvania Public Utilities Commission, which usually takes about 9 months to a year. So it's a pretty long closing process. And Bernie might get into that a little bit later. I think that's good for that slide, Trace.
Okay, questions on that slide?
Somebody had their hand up the last time, but then they put it back down after we started the next slide. So I don't see any hands up right now.
So
Okay.
I'm gonna kick it over to Bernie from PA American Water to talk a little bit about his company and what they're offering in this deal. Bernie.
Thanks, Ben. Yep, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to come and join this unique format, which might be the new normal for a while here. But I think everybody's been doing a good job being patient and working through our virtual reality. So a little bit of background on Pennsylvania American Water. We're actually the largest water and wastewater regulated entity in the state of Pennsylvania. We currently have over 740,000 customers in 36 of the state's 67 counties. We serve a little under 19% of the population. Our customer base is 660,000 water customers and 74,000 wastewater customers. We are proximate to the township. We have a large regional system to the west. We call it our Glen Alsace water system, where we provide water service. And then we recently bought the Exeter Township wastewater system, closed on that last year. So to the west, we have our Exeter Amity system. And then to the east, we have a regional water system. We call it our Royersford system. That system, between the two, we serve about 35,000 customers. We also have under agreement to acquire the Royerstown Borough wastewater, which is within Royerstown Borough. Locally, we're going to have about 32 employees nearby. We're going to be to the east and then to the west of the borough. Across the state, we employ about a little over 1,100 employees across Pennsylvania. Our corporate office is in Mechanicsburg, PA, but we are operating throughout PA in the 36 counties, 400 municipalities. As I mentioned, we're regulated. A little difference between us and the township is we're regulated by the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission. They regulate us for rates as well as customer service. Like the township, we also have an environmental regulator, which is the Department of Environmental Protection, in some cases, the EPA. And of course, we follow the county and municipal regulations that exist as well. Our company, again, we're the largest in Pennsylvania. Our parent company is American.
Bernie, just a second. Someone has their phone on in the background. If someone's using a computer and a phone, it's too close to the computer. Go ahead, Bernie.
No problem. So anyway, our parent of American Water trades under the stock exchange number letters AWK, is the largest investor-owned water company in the United States. It trades in the S&P 500 and owns 13 other regulated utilities across Pennsylvania. Just a little bit about our, our setup is we are, again, regulated by the PUC. So anytime we want a rate adjustment, that would have to go through a PUC process. Typically, rates are adjusted to recover the amount of investment that the company's going to make. So on an annual basis, we've been averaging about $300 to $400 million worth of capital improvements to our water and wastewater systems, plants, pumps, pipes, massive amounts of infrastructure investment. We try to stay ahead of the maintenance cycles and the maintenance curves. Over the last 5 years, as a matter of fact, the company's invested $1.3 billion in utility upgrades. I did mention the fact that we're heavily regulated. We have a strong wastewater presence. We currently own 18 wastewater systems. We have 3 more on. As we are, we're also very local. And again, we have that customer base locally, proximate to the township. We employ locally. And that with our scale comes some advantage when we purchase materials. We aggregate our purchasing power at the American level, and that's passed through to the benefit of the customers, as is our operating expenses for power and chemicals and vehicle purchases. So, we're going to be able to take on what the township's doing right now with 1,500 or so customers. We're going to bring that into 740,000 customers and be able to spread what the Upper Pottsgrove costs across our customer base. Kind of a high level oversight there, Trace.
Questions on that
Yeah,
slide?
Trace, we have a question from a Dustin. So I'm going to unmute him and ask him to state his name and address for the record, if you could, please, Trace.
Okay.
Okay, he's unmuted.
Dustin Schreiber, 138 Rose Valley Road. Just a little suggestion for feedback wise. If you're not speaking, if you mute your mic, it's much easier to hear the person that's actually speaking. And if you are unmuted by the host, you can mute and unmute at your leisure.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay. Ben, Bernie?
So the township in its procurement asked for the bidders to submit what would be a price for the system, but also an illustrative or indicative illustration, to be repetitive, of rates. So what this deal actually was structured in a manner that while the current fee that the customer in the township pays, which is $71.67 a month, that fee is actually going to decrease as part of the transaction. So prior to closing, sometime maybe in early 2021, if this is voted on, the township will actually lower the flat rate fees charged to the residents to $65 a month. And then, a part of the law that we're utilizing to acquire the system, known in PA as Act 12, Fair Market Value Law, we'll keep your rates at closing. That's a requirement. We will ask the PUC to approve the $65 per month rate for equivalent dwelling unit customer. And while we typically will adjust rates on an as-needed basis, our historical trend has been on average about 3 to 4 years to recover the 300 to 400 million of investment we make over time. But as this chart illustrates, the next through 2022, we do not anticipate a rate adjustment to the base rates of the township. And then after that, we illustrated, for indicative purposes, potential rate increases that could occur over the next 8 years, as was asked for by the township. So what you're going to see is an immediate decrease, rates held for several years, and then as investment is made and the system becomes intertwined with our existing operations, rate adjustments will occur over that time period.
questions on the fee slide?
I don't see any hands up, Trace.
Jim Crawford has his up.
Oh, Jim Crawford, yep, let's unmute him.
Hi, guys. Jim Crawford, 1115 Autumn View Lane.
Hey, Jim.
A chart that shows past 2028. It's going up, and it'd be interesting to see what that looks like, an additional chart.
Well, Jim, that's it really is difficult to tell, to be honest with you, but I can tell you that on average, if you look back, on average, the company's average rate increase is about 3 to 4%. Now, it doesn't occur immediately. It occurs when rates go into effect, so there may be some years where there's no adjustment. But then when we go to file for a rate increase and the PUC approves that rate adjustment, you might see, 2-3 years worth of percentages in aggregate.
Bernie, how often do those requests for rate adjustments get disapproved?
Who is that?
It's still Jim Crawford.
Oh, okay, Jim.
Typically, Jim, I've been with the company 29 years. I've never had a situation where any of our rate increases were disapproved. And again, the major reason behind that is it's for, the recovery of the investment that we're making into these, our water and wastewater utility systems.
Jim, any more? I see Al Leach has his hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question in regards to, I'll ask the commissioners. When it comes to like this rate increase, as you can see, it's going up from originally $71 now in your chart above $91, I'm going to say. So roughly 20 a month. How often and how much is our rate increased currently since we started the program?
Chris, you want to talk that, or John? John Beeler, Chris?
Chuck, I can talk that too if I bring up something. We have historically the data that our rates have increased. Does Chris or John have that handy, or no? If not, I have to turn the computer on to get it.
The reason why the question is we're just trying to compare as into what the difference is of how much we've raised and where ours started at versus what obviously this new private company is going to start and estimate raise. You're trying to compare the two, apples to apples.
Chris and John, do you want to add anything?
Looks like Chris is muted. I don't know.
Jeannie has her hands up. Jeannie,
Renee, and Elwood all have their hands up.
let's get Renee. That should be working fine. Renee, are you up?
Let me unmute her and see. Renee? She's not, she still has her hand up, but I think she has to unmute herself. I'm not sure.
Renee, you're gonna have to mute yourself. Jeannie, you probably do too.
Hi, yes, I'm on.
Okay.
I just wanted to reiterate that in 2007, the sewer rate went up 72% in 1 year. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Did Chris get online?
I'm trying to pull it up online. I don't know. Elwood has a question. I don't know if you want to move on or you want to pick Al Leach's question.
Let me
I mean, I could certainly email
Yeah,
Reach the historical.
here's
data.
what we got. So from 2014 to present, it was $860 a year. From 2009 to 2013, it was 800. From in 2008, it was 720. 2007, 420. 2006 July, 420. 2006 to 93, 400. 90 to 92, 200. 91 to 89, 136. 78 to 80, 122.24. So I think the important thing there is what we would need to do since we're getting these numbers, is actually take this curve and plot what our projection increases would be. So if this number that we're putting to right here, that's at 860. So if you start bringing that across, and then if we start doing our new projects within here, then we'll see some kind of inclines that goes up, because we'll be spending more on the capital projects in this time frame. So American Water's projected out this way with the numbers that they've ran. Ours are right now, we're moving from a 1-year budgeting system to a 4-year budgeting system, so we can see how that curve goes out. And I know that Chris and I've been talking about those numbers as well. Chris, are you still on? Chris Pelka?
So you have 2 more questions then. You still have Al Leach still has his hand up. I don't know if he has another question, and then you have.
Hear me now? Trace, can you hear me now?
Yeah, Chris, we got you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the main reason for the big increase back in 08 or whatever that year was the Regal Oaks Pump Station project, which was kind of something that was forced on the township that was unforeseen. So that's really the bulk of the payment there that occurred and the reason for the major increase.
Okay, Al,
Let me unmute Al and see if he has an additional question. Al Leach.
see if Elwood's opens up. I see Elwood has a hand up.
All right, let me unmute him.
Yeah, Chris answered the question about the large increase 10, 12 years ago. To answer Al's question, the rates have been relatively stable in the last 10 years since then, as long as there's been no additional purchase debt taking on. And I am looking at the estimated graph there, and I heard the gentleman suggest they get 3 to 4% a year. This one indicates about a 6% a year, as far as I can tell. So there were my comments.
Bill Brogel's hand is up.
Okay, hold on. Let me get to him. You can't get everybody up on the screen in order for me to see everything else. So let me find him. Is he on by name?
Yeah.
I'm not finding him.
I try it. Bill, you up?
I am up.
Okay.
Does this include the expansion of the system right now that we're getting charged for, or we're about to get charged for, or maybe not getting charged for? I don't know what the situation is. I'm on Ming Drive, 2348 Ming Drive.
I guess what you're asking is, you mean the current capital projects you're asking for?
Correct.
Okay.
Is this all tied in together?
Well, it depends on the point of the closing, Bill. So depending on when the closing is, we've already actually for the township to pay for capital projects. And Chris, you can please chime in. We have Ming and Moyer, and we also have Regal Oaks 2A coupled with 7 on Gilbertsville. Chris?
Yes, at this point, those 2 projects are still on schedule to complete this year.
So I think my letter from Michelle indicated that Ming Drive was part of the Moyer Road, but I'm just trying to ask you guys if that's accurate or not.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Mink Drive Moyer Road is one project.
Okay.
Yes, and that project includes the extension of sewer essentially to Gilbertsville Road from, from the west side from Gilbertsville Road to the new connection for the new development.
Very good.
Me,
You can unmute me, Michelle.
I couldn't find you.
Al, your mic should be open, your hands up. You still want to say
Yeah,
something?
I just have a quick thing. This has nothing to do with, I guess, just overall on these webinars. Are they recorded? And is there a chat feature to make it easier to ask questions?
Yes, they are recorded, given the size of the file. So we are going to see how we can hang those. But we get a video and we get an audio file for that. So we're recording it. We're also doing the hard minutes as well. And then the chat figure, there's been recent complications with Zoom, with some kind of a malware type stuff. We're just kind of being careful with the chat function. But yes, we do have the chat function. Depends on how secure it is. Right now, it's disabled for our purposes right now. So if you have your own internal piece, that would be fine. But yeah, it's going to make it easier to ask questions. We certainly could do that way if it pans out. And then again, our backup is sending the emails so Michelle can get them to the correct people to answer the questions. But we'll check on chat as long as we don't have any security issues on it. Any more questions on that slide? I don't see more. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see any more questions.
Okay. Next slide. Connecting existing homes to the system. Bernie, you want to talk that?
Sure, I could take it. As part of the due diligence, the company, reviewed where the municipal township was relative to their 537 plan, which included some specific projects that need to be done pursuant to that plan and the project schedule with DEP. So projects of Regal Oaks Phase B, Phase 2B, and then Horseshoe and Bruce Drives and Continental and Old Orchard Drives. Those projects will be completed by Pennsylvania American Water Company once we own the system. We'll step into the role the township was playing, and we will we'll actually complete the design, permitting, and construction of those projects. As it relates to item 2, there is a difference in the way Pennsylvania American charges for tapping fees. The township has a tapping fee right now. It's made up of various components that aggregates to about $54.47 per connection when they hook to the township fee. Under our tariff, PUC regulated tariff, so for wastewater, the company, if you're an existing home or an existing business, so that would be a home with an occupancy permit, a business that's a building, right? We do not charge what we call it a capacity fee. We do not charge that to existing homes or businesses. If it were a new development or say a non-existing plot of land that a developer wanted to construct and homes would be constructed as part of that, then there would be a $4,000 capacity fee. So there is a difference between fees charged for connections under our ownership versus in this case the township's fee structure. So again, if it's an existing home, those homes that I mentioned in 1A, B, and C, they will not be assessed a capacity fee when we own the system. Our company also pays for the cost of the connection from the sewer line to the curb or clean out. We call that like the service lateral from the curb to the property line, where then the customer would install the plumbing to have the sewer line connected from that point. So a little bit of a difference in how those fees are managed. So more along the line under utility regulation, the Public Utility Commission, as a policy, they try to incentivize connections. So the ability to not assess that cost, but rather to build it into the rates and spread it across your customer base is essentially a difference in PUC regulated policy versus municipal policy.
Questions on that slide?
I see no questions.
No questions on that one?
Oh, no, wait, Bill Brogley has one. Hold on one second. Bill?
So it says if you would like to be connected, I'm sorry. Other existing homes included in these projects that would like to connect to the system. My understanding is that we're forced to connect to the system, which might be fine, but is that accurate or not?
Bill, that's a good point. So there is the point of differentiation is two things. One, you mentioned which is my understanding. The township has a mandatory connection ordinance in place. That would still be in place when we would own the system. But number 3 really talks to projects outside of the ones that are part of the 537 plan. So if there's areas in the municipality where there are existing homes and businesses that don't have wastewater, but they would like that service, we would work with those existing homeowners and businesses to see if wastewater service could be extended. One other nuance to our tariff is that there's a formula based on what we call bona fide service applicant. So that's an existing home or business. And our company, through that formula, will invest $15,000 toward the cost of an extension. So if there were 10 folks along a road that wanted wastewater, we would, and they, with the ordinance, we know they'll tap in. So 10 times 15, we would invest $150,000 toward that project. If the cost of the project was enough to cover the extension, the company would fund the entire extension to those folks. They would not have then to pay a tap-in fee. They would have to pay their plumbing fees to connect to the wastewater system.
Okay.
Anybody else for that slide?
Don't see any other hands up.
Okay. Okay, if you want, so any other questions overall? And then let me know once you come up with your hand what slide you want to go to, or if there's anything specific around that. So
Yep,
just
we got a
no.
hand up. Al Leach here, I'll unmute him.
Just a question in regards to, we keep talking about the debt and everything like that. So my question is, what is the actual debt of the water sewer versus what is the actual debt of the township?
So overall, what we have is these are numbers as of December 31st. Total debt as of December 31st was $7,312,764. Interest to paid if they all go to maturity, $1,124,265. Of our 4 main funds that we have, the debt outstanding of that total amount I just mentioned there, sewer is $4,728,507. The open space is $2,135,000. General is $208,000, and the state is $241,000. For our purpose of intent is to pay all those off regardless of what area it happens to be in.
All right, and then question would be the surplus. What's going to happen to the surplus that's in the water and sewer? And from my understanding, there's like around $1 million in the surplus.
Well, from what our bid price and what our actual intent was probably around $332,000 above and what our best price that we wanted to have, which was good for us. But for any of this stuff, it's not going in operational stuff. It's going into to paying the debt and then the infrastructure. If that $4 million is probably going to be closer to 4.5, then that's going to be directed in that way. And it depends on what the rest of the commissioners want to do, want to do as well, what they decide to do with those proceeds.
So here's my biggest issue with the whole thing, and maybe some of the commissioners can explain, you know, their
Yeah,
thoughts.
just so you know, we want to do the questions and go for it. If you're wanting to get into debate, make sure we answer all the questions first, and we.
Well, this is the question. Here's the question. It is the question in regards to this. All right. In general, the overall, any site you look at on this particular object of privatizing the water and sewer and such like that is going to be an increase of approximately 11%. Not one location has ever had a decrease or anything like that. My question, though,
Wait a minute. Go back. What'd you say? What was 11%?
It's about all the studies show it's about an 11% increase.
What studies we're talking about?
Oh, you can Google every study you want. Any study you want, they're going to show those numbers. It's very easy to Google because there's been so many different townships that have done this. So it's very easy to look back.
You have a couple names?
I'd have to go back and get the Google for you if you wanted to. I figured I'm sure I would take the assumption that you guys have already looked this up.
Well, if you said 11%, Bernie, are you familiar with any of those studies?
Well, I don't. These system sales happen for various reasons, and they're done on a case-by-case basis. You know, municipalities have various drivers for wanting to, consider selling their systems. It might be that they can't afford the extensions that need to be done. It might be there's a potential risk for a new regulatory rule coming down the pike that would cause an undue burden. So, there really isn't one per se reason, and I can't think of an 11%, general, increase that is tied to any one acquisition. But there are different reasons for municipalities wanting to, sell their systems.
Yeah. Let me get to the question though, because that's what it's involved in and such like that. Is in general, this is looking like it's going to be a short-term fix that you guys are looking to have, that you say there's an issue. Debating or not, I'm not debating if there's an issue or not an issue. That's for different thing. But it's going to cause a long-term problem for every person that's on the water and sewer, as they're going to have their rates increase. They're also going to eventually have taxes increase. So we're trying to figure out as into why the people under the water and sewer, which are not the entire township, should be paying for the entire township's supposedly issues. And why you would, as a commissioner, I would expect you're looking long-term more than short-term, but this is clearly a short-term fix to create a long-term problem. So I'm confused as into why you would want to do it.
Why would you think that they're separable? The one's not at long range and the other is. Why are you saying this is short range?
Well, short range, you're going to get $13 million. You're going to get, obviously, and I don't want to be, it's not a debate. And as I want you to answer the questions, but you just asked me a specific
I'm trying to understand what your question is. So if you're
okay,
saying,
you're going to get,
if you're saying the long, just a second, if you're saying the long range, because when you take a look at these numbers, you're thinking about the capital expenditures going forward. So if you think the sewer fund is going to be at zero balance somewhere after everything's paid off, depending on the projects you have in 28, 29, you're still dropping a lot of pipes in the ground, and you're still extending capital, and you don't know what's going to happen with any expansions of any developments would add to the revenue flow. So those are going to be decreasing as well. So it's what you come up with your expenses and projecting forward, whether you're going to come up with the correct number. And if you just take a look at some of the ones that we're starting to run now, it doesn't look like that's favorable in our capacity as running it as ourselves. And there's a lot of more factors. If you read the letter, what we're taking a look at, professional management as we go forward with this, and also with how we're going to be doing the billing, the expenses and the failure system on that. I mean, we're starting to get to the reasons why, but if you have something hard that you're showing that you have calculated what those are, Al, then I'd be happy to take a look with and give it to our finance guys to see if what that compares to. But Bernie or Chris, do you have anything more on, or John Beeler on that? I see Dustin has his hand up, Michelle.
Hold on one second. Give me a second. Okay. Dustin?
Hello. Yes. You keep referring to these projections that you are running. I have not seen these projections. Are those available?
To do the comparativeness, we're PFM and working with Chris on that to get the numbers what we think we're going to compare it to. And again, we've our long-term plan, we're starting to expand that from 1 year to 4. But we're going to see how close it is. But again, fees are one piece of the whole puzzle as you go forward. You heard the connection as well.
Yes.
And any of the other commissioners want to answer, please feel free. So we're collecting. So ours is to take this all these numbers in and actually take a position on it at some point on this.
Secondarily, in reference to Al's earlier argument, I believe Limerick is facing a currently 135% increase next year because of selling their sewer system.
Ben or Bernie, any information on that?
Scott, are you on? See if you can unmute Scott, Trace.
Hold on. We'll get him. Let's see where he's at. There's a lot of people on here, so just give me a.
I'll see.
See if I can find him. There he is. I got it.
Okay.
Scott?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I would need to go back and double check, and Mark Feller, he might be able to provide some insight as well that we're happy to get back to you. But yeah, I mean, those were kind of very different circumstances between Limerick and Upper Pottsgrove. There were some planned increases with the Limerick sale. So yeah, the actual percentage, I can't remember off the top of my head, but we'll surely go back and get that for you.
Hey, Scott, this is Trace. Also on Al's questions on the studies and 11%. Did you have anything on that one?
I'm not entirely sure what is being referred to. What studies? I mean, we're happy to take a look at.
Write us a letter or an email, so we'll get that to you as Ben, as I talked with you earlier on getting those questions. You guys can take a look at those if you have the more details on it.
Sure.
Okay, Trace, I have Renee.
Okay.
I'm going to unmute her. Well, I did. She has her hand up. I can't unmute hers. Renee?
Yes.
There we go. Renee, you had something?
Yes, I just wanted to say, regardless of whether we sell the sewer system or not, it's going to cost us more money. It will cost us more money, regardless. We'd have to borrow more money to do these projects. So the prices would go up. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Somebody got some background on your mic. I think someone's in the room with you. So I see Tom Clancy's there, or Don.
Yep, Don Clancy. Hold on one second. Let me unmute him.
Hello, hi, Don Clancy, from the backyard of 1296 Vale Circle. So in the plot that's showing the rate increases, I mean, just kind of a rough back of the inflow calculation, that's somewhere in the 4 to 5% range. It's going on indefinitely. I mean, so if I were looking at this and saying I wanted to sign up for some deal where the cost is going to go up 4 or 5% a year indefinitely, I think that would be a pretty bad deal. The only way I would actually come on board to that deal is a very realistic look at future costs and those projections of what those are. And I haven't seen you guys present that tonight, which tells me I don't think you've done full due diligence on this. So I suggest maybe that should get done, and maybe we can actually have an apples to apples comparison.
Okay, thanks.
All right, hold on. We got Jim Crawford. Jim Crawford?
Yeah, to to clarify to Renee, I think the struggle is that a for-profit is more likely to raise the prices than a not-for-profit, where the township is not looking to profit from the sewer system repairs. So I think that's where the greatest challenge is. We obviously know things will go up over the years. They're not going to go down. They never do, right? So I think that's where the delineation is.
Thanks, Jim. Elwood has his hand up.
Yep, I'll get there. Give me 1 second.
Thanks.
Yeah, hello there. Al Leach started his question looking at that 8,000 some for debt. I did have a question comment. I had thought that debt was being listed as sewer debt, but I think I heard Trace say that only about $4.5 million of that is sewer debt. And then went on to say that the rest of that is general fund debt that is also being planned to be used to pay off, being used out of sewer funds to pay the total debt. So I do think the slide, at least me looking at it, it was a little misleading. I wasn't sure what all debt that included. And then after finding out that only about half of it is sewer debt, that is Al's first question, and that was, is it justified to use sewer fund money to pay down general fund debt? Thank you.
In the past.
So yeah, with and when we do start to comment on those, and of course everybody knows Elwood's been on the Board of Commissioners for quite a while and knows the debt structure on that stuff. So we'll gladly have those conversations when we come time with have the discussion. More questions?
I don't see any more.
Raise your hand
For what?
and say, raise your hand. Are you going to do your research or are you just?
You're on
already
mic.
Yes, raise your hand.
You're on mic. Whoever was talking is on mic.
You were on mic. You were on mic.
Okay. Someone who's talking, you think you're mute, but we're hearing you. Anybody else?
I don't see anybody else, Trace.
So, folks, what the intent was this is just to see how well we can do with this. We had scheduled some stuff before we got into the situation we're in right now. So we wanted to get the letter out. It was delayed a little bit just because of manpower and getting it where it needed to be out. So we're going to send that out for everybody to have the basics to this. We wanted to see how we can answer the questions. So we wanted to continue to extend the time period that we were going to have these series of discussions. So right now, folks, we're almost at 50 total participants. So the capacity we have on this right now is 100. We can certainly increase that. We do with the township's account. We're gonna try that next time to have a capacity of 200. So we're scheduled for the 8th, for the 14th, and the 16th right now to do the same thing with what we're doing right now. It looks like we're okay with control. There's some folks that are on telephones. I didn't see any of those hands go up or any of the telephones. But we didn't have your name, so we don't have those. We have your number, but not your name. So you need to tell us if you wanted to talk.
Oh, hold on, we got a question here. A last minute question from Dustin.
Hello again. Just to let you know, I believe that it is impossible to raise your hand if you're talking on a phone rather than on a computer, if that is something that you guys care about.
I do think some people actually have the phone and the computer by them, but I think I did check once, but we'll check that out. Thanks, Dustin.
Yeah, I think, Trace, we should suggest at the end of the meeting that those people that are on telephone that have questions, again, should email their questions. But I do have Chuck Note here with his hand up, so I'm going to unmute him. Chuck? Chuck Note? You there? Why can't I unmute him?
Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you.
2137 East Horseshoe Drive. Can you describe what that Act 597 means in my eyes? How it guarantees me my sewer?
Which slide we were talking about? Which one?
The one slide, it said for the upcoming projects. Act 537.
Oh, 537 plan.
Yeah, just in layman's term, what's that do for me?
Chris, please jump in. 537 plan is what we did several years ago to indicate how we're going to build up the sewer structure. And as we went forward, we had designed, these are the subdivisions, for lack of a better term, that we're going to be going into. And as we went along, you saw Regal Oaks, I think probably is the most recent example, phase 1 and phase 2A that we have going on right now, Gesundheit. So Regal Oaks phase 2, that's the next set's coming in. Horseshoe and Bruce isn't following by that, and then Continental and Old Orchard Drive. So Chuck, it's the plan that we're going to use for capital expenditures going forward. And those A, B, and C that you see there is what American Water is going to continue on with that we've already planned for. Chris, Helka, anything to add to that?
Sure. The 537 plan was basically a document that we prepared, the township prepared and was accepted by the DEP to provide sewer service to those communities that had problems with their system. And so as such, the township's going to continue with the ones that they have on the books currently. And then after that, per the contract, PA American Water will extend the service to those other communities once the transition happens.
Chuck, does that make sense? Chuck Note?
Trying to find him.
We go.
Drop off by chance? Oh, there he goes.
Yes. Thank you, Trace.
Good to go?
Yep.
Yeah, you should see the size of that book, by the way, the 537. It's a pretty good sized book.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think
We have more. Hold on. I think we have Martin and Kathy that want to speak. Oh, yeah, we got a lot of people's hands up. Okay, I'm going to start at the top with Martin. Martin, oh, it takes a minute. Okay, Martin, you have your hand up.
First off, what happens after we're done with the 537 plan? If there's other residents, who pays for that? Is that comes down to the $15,000 a household?
So yeah, Martin, under our ownership, we would work with the existing homes and businesses to, scope out, say, a wastewater line extension, and we would apply the $15,000 bona fide. Now, if it were to be a commercial facility, it's going to be a larger investment. We usually calculate that based on the revenues that would be generated from a larger customer, but the aggregate number of customers times the investment is the amount that the company could put in toward an extension.
Okay, and if it's totally not near a mile away from anything, they're going to be footing the bill for most of it then?
Well, that's when you get into rural areas and the cost, the distance between facilities stretches out. You do run into that situation where it does, the 15,000 will cover. It depends on the road. It might cover 100 or 150 feet of an extension. That's the cost. And then anything above that, we'd have to come up with, like a cost funding mechanism. So typically, we would ask that, those that are pulling the line, so to speak, would bear the cost. Now, keep in mind, if there were, say, some development that occurred along the way, that's, within the township's planning, zoning, appropriately zoned, and a developer wanted to help pull that line and brought it closer. We've seen that result in lines being brought, further out into areas of the community.
Okay. One last thing. You could possibly unmute the people on the phone to actually see if they have any questions.
We could do that. I'm going down the list now. So
Okay.
Next up, I have Kathy, who has her hand up. And I'm trying. Okay, Kathy, you had a question?
Actually, I just wanted to comment first that I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I know I had a few questions on Facebook this afternoon, and I was waiting for the meeting tonight to see if they would be addressed to your satisfaction. If not, please let me know. I'll see what I can do to help. I think what we're looking at here is no matter they always go up. We're either going to have our taxes raised or our sewer prices raised. I think looking at things down the road. I think we're looking at a lot more infrastructure with the sewer system and what's going to need to be replaced and people that are going to need to hook in. So I am a person who does like to look down the road and see what are we doing now to avoid the problems coming down later. Like I said, anybody have any questions, Facebook or email me. I'll be happy to help out. Thank you.
All right, give me 1 minute. Next up, I have Mark Feller, who has something to say.
Mark is our attorney. It's working for us for special counsel. Mark, can you?
Okay, Mark?
Yes. I just wanted to react to a few things, address a few issues that were raised by some of the comments. First of all, someone referred to this as a water sewer. It's really just sewer that we're talking about. That is what the proposal is that's on the table, is for the sale of the sewer system. There's no question that American Water is in a business and it's used to make a profit. However, unlike, let's say, your cable company or some other businesses you work with, American Water is regulated by the Public Utility Commission. The Public Utility Commission puts a cap on the amount of rate increases that can go through. It makes sure that the utility company is not spending an excessive amount on capital projects that could get passed through to ratepayers. So again, unlike your cable bill, there is a governing body that is monitoring these increases and making sure that they're fair. There's also a consumer advocate within the Public Utility Commission that speaks out in favor of, or I should say against rate increases in many cases. And members of the public have standing to go to the PUC and to voice objections to rate increases. The issue of rate increases is going on throughout the Commonwealth. I live in a township in Bucks County with a municipally owned system. We just got a notice of a 37% rate increase. And there's probably another one coming along next year. And again, it's government owned, but it's due to the requirements of the Pennsylvania DEP and avoiding discharges of sewage into the water supply, into rivers and streams. Many townships have not kept up with these obligations, and rates have been artificially low over the years. And it's starting to catch up with a lot of municipalities. Another thing is that the sale proceeds of these systems, as is the case here, can be used to pay off debt, existing debt. And when existing debt is paid off, there's less money that the township has to spend for debt service. So that helps keep taxes lower than they might otherwise be. The money can also be used for capital projects that typically would get financed by issuing bonds. And issuing bonds creates the obligation to pay debt service that has an upward impact on taxes. So the proceeds of the sale, which are permitted to be used for other purposes, including paying down non-sewer debt, can have a positive benefit in keeping taxes down because you're not borrowing as much money and paying as much debt service for projects. So I just wanted to make those points. And certainly, people have questions, follow-up questions. I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, give me a second here. I got Stephanie
Rowe.
This is Robert Rowe, 1290 Whitespire. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello.
I just wanted to say, someone made the comment of when?
Once it happens.
Once it happens, as opposed to if this happens. So I don't know if the decision was already made to go ahead with the project. But typically selling bonds for a municipal area has a cheaper rate than you would as a private financer. You would be charged a higher rate. So selling your bonds would be cheaper over, sorry, Jane. Sorry, those kids are in the background. And typically, A study of local public service deliveries in over 1,000 U.S. municipalities found that between 1997 and 2002, twice as many municipalities ended privatization and began going back to public operation of water systems and sanitation systems, because overall the cost went up on average 20%. And this is based upon, I don't know what you guys benchmark against, but foodandwaterwatch.org. They have a lot of information about different municipalities who have gone private and then gone back to public. So I don't know what townships you've benchmarked against for this project to compare apples to apples. But judging by the graph that I saw, it's really not a lot into that graph to show us what the rates really are. And if it is 3 or 4%, but the projections look more like 7 or 8%, I'm not really sure they're really accurate. But that's just a side comment. So I really don't have any question other than commenting on that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, hold on 1 second here. Let's go down to, all right, I'm going down. Just give me a minute to say, I know other people had their hand up, I think.
I don't see any more.
I don't see any more. Should we unmute the people that are calling in to see if they have questions?
Yeah. Check one or two and see if they can talk.
Hello, I'm not sure who this is on the telephone.
What's the number?
215-666-2485.
It's Evan again.
Up, Evan, okay. Okay. So let's go to the next person. Hold
Evan,
on.
do you have a hands up signal on your phone?
I'm on the computer as well as using the phone because my microphone doesn't work. So if I wanted to put my hand up, I could do it on the computer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. So we got some more hands up before we finish the people on the phone. We have Bill Brogley here.
First off, thank you guys for this. I appreciate that you got it organized to the extent that you got it organized. But just define for everyone in the township where the process of this discussion is actually going. I mean, obviously there's no vote going on tonight, but something we're progressing, right?
Yeah, so Bill, what we're doing is continuing on with this format in asking questions and increasing it. So like I was telling you, the letter went out today, so there'll be more interest, more people have background on this. So Michelle has posted all the information on our website. So the intent is to have a meeting on the 8th, the 14th, and 16th. And at that point, seeing where we stand, we're tentatively scheduled to vote on the 20th. So we'll have to advertise the ordinance before that time period, but the voting is tentatively looking at right now on the 20th, given what we would do and how the additional three meetings go, and of course what's going on in the nation. So that's the process going forward, coupled with what's posted and then ongoing communications with Michelle and PFM and our attorneys to answer any questions.
So if you don't mind, like I haven't spoken to Chuck at all, but I mean, is this going to be a legitimate way to have a meeting?
Chuck or Mark, you want to talk a little bit about the public meeting standards now that are in place?
Sure. This is a problem, obviously, that's been troubling for a number of jurisdictions, number of townships and other local governments. But under the governor's declaration of an emergency and the township declaration of emergency, and based on language that we've examined in the Sunshine Law and some other statutes, properly conducted, and we think this one is properly conducted, will constitute a valid public meeting. And obviously, we've heard a lot of questions and comments, very good ones, and that is essentially what the process is designed to do, to allow people to ask questions and voice their positions on these issues. There's also, at the present time, some consideration in the state legislature to amending Pennsylvania law on open meetings to specifically provide that these kinds of electronic access meetings will in fact comply with the Pennsylvania Sunshine Law for the duration of this emergency. So while it may not even be necessary to have that kind of legislation put in place, because we and many firms feel comfortable that this does meet the requirements of current Pennsylvania law and under the current situation, having that additional comfort will essentially eliminate any debate about the issue. So we're following that very carefully. We think there's a good chance that some legislation will be adopted in a couple of days.
Thank you, Mark.
As you can see.
Chuck, this is Trace. Did I unmuted you? I don't know if you were trying to make a comment, Chuck Garner.
Yeah. Thanks, Trace. I just wanted to say that, Bill, we have looked at this, and Mark summarized it very well. We believe that these types of meetings comply with the First Class Township Code and the Sunshine Act. Although it might be inconvenient, it gives the public a chance to comment and voice their concerns with respect to the transaction. So we don't have any problems with the process.
I'll just add that, at least from my understanding, and it probably should come from Grace and other members of the board, there has been absolutely no decision made to proceed with this transaction. I mean, that is the purpose of these meetings, to hear public comment, questions, objections, but there will be no decision on the sale of the system until these meetings have been held and it comes up for a vote on an ordinance. If it is determined to proceed, the ordinance would be adopted to authorize proceeding with the transaction, but that ordinance may not be adopted. So that's at least my understanding. Trace?
Yeah, that's correct. So tentatively, like Bill's question, it's tentative right now for the 20th. Given we're flowing well with these meetings, and people can get their questions answered, and give the feedback we get from the letters. Any other commissioners want to talk to that point?
Yeah, we do have another hand up then too.
Okay. I see Al's hands up again.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing big. I just wanted to see if you guys could, at least tonight or in the future, could answer that question that we heard earlier, as into what townships do you guys actually use for research in comparing us to, and the difference of that type of funding, the privatizing the sewer system versus the municipal bonds in funding, obviously with much lower rates. I'm just curious as into the research you guys all did in comparison for our area versus others.
Okay, can you help again on what are you saying on the, just so I understand the municipal bond piece of it? We're not looking for any funding. What do you mean by that? Okay, so Ben and Scott, you heard that question. Well, I think Al sent us an email, so we'll take a look at that and we'll get back to him with a one-on-one email and see if we're getting at what he's asking specifically. So do you see any more?
Let me double check one more time. I didn't know if you wanted to check the rest of the people that are on the phone or not. I can unmute here. I have a 302 number. I have a 302 area code number. Can anyone hear me?
Okay, Michelle, we're going to just check the technical pieces on that. We can't go through all.
Wait, we have Ed with his hand up. I don't know who Ed is. Ed, do we have an Ed? Could you please state
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you state your first and last name and your address?
Ed Alder, 2257 Bruce Drive.
Thank
you. Ed. Hello. I came in a little late, so I hope none of my questions are redundant, but I'm just concerned about the time frame, sewer service to my house, projected cost, and is it mandatory?
Okay, a little bit more. Where did you say? You said Bruce Drive?
Yeah, he's on Bruce Drive, Trace.
So, Chris Pelka, I think we have, what do we have for, that's 2022?
2257.
We're looking for the year, Ed. I think it's 2022.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's FY22. That's the schedule for that. So American Water, if depending on the closing date, you're 2022. So I suspect if this went through, then it would be American Water handling it. If it did not go through, then you're scheduled for FY22. Is that
okay?
And then so you would be, if we kept it, it would be, the connection fees would be the 5,447. If it was American Water, then there would not be the connection fees, and of course you'd be just like everybody else, responsible, connected from your curb to your house. Is that, Ed? Does that get you where you wanted?
Yeah, that's what. And the only other part is it a mandatory hookup?
Yes.
I do. I have a functioning septic system.
Yeah, Chris, any more on that?
Yes, it would be a mandatory connection. To make things even close to feasible, all homes in the communities have to be connected per the maps in the 537 plan.
And Ed, did you understand what he said about the 537 plan? That's the chief document we work off of for the scheduling of the different projects that are coming. Okay.
So you said 2022 would be probably
FY 2022 is the current plan. That's correct.
Okay. Okay, that answers my question.
Other folks, we're at 2028. We're at 8:28 right now. Hour and a half. Usually, hour and a half is when folks. That's about as far as folks can go. So, if there's no other questions, what we'll do is any more of the emails you have coming in. Kathy mentioned it as well. Get us online. We will get the meeting for the 8th scheduled. So you can go to the website and see the dial-in information, or the login information there. We'll get that posted tomorrow. And then please look for the letter coming out and give comments back if you'd like on that. With that said, Michelle, anything else?
Just if anybody is on telephone and has questions and weren't able to ask their questions on this platform, they can feel free to email me at manager@uptownship.org, or certainly pick up the phone and give a call to the township office, extension 201.
Okay. With that, thank you, everybody. Any other comments, including, if you would, any feedback on the technical part of this. So I appreciate you. So I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.